Hello, welcome back to Chinese Contenders Season 3. This is the final match of the day. It's the morning places, night somewhere, afternoon. But for me, it is the morning, and it's going to be Flag versus Restart. Now, this is an interesting game. Now, Volumel and Scribe, we were talking about this, and it's an interesting game for several reasons. One, for the fact that recently Restart, they've just lost B612, formerly known as Freefeel, who was on Shanghai Dragons. And now they're playing into this, so they've had to play around that. Obviously, as we come into week 3, they've got to replace him, find a new member for the team. But the big thing for me is like how does that affect them in a big way, and how close do you think this matchup is going to be?
Well, I mean, we can, the viewers at home can't see this, but, Wands is in for Shirley. He also has left the team. B612 is no longer with us. And we have a new player by the name of Delete Brig. So everybody in Twitch chat will be very, very, very happy to see Delete Brig.
He's probably playing Brigitte as well, because he's actually on the team.
China's got him listed as McCree. So... could be. I mean, they both have a stun, so there's a little bit of overlap there.
Actually, no. I think Cloud. No. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
Regardless, Restart tank team. They have taken a map in Land Story Cup. They actually beat Lucky Future on Busan, so they've gotten on the board. They're doing well. They still are winless. So
yep.
It is going to be that kind of same style clash that we saw last week with Flag Gaming and LGD, and Restart might be able to do some here. I'm not going to say they're going to win, but this might be a little bit closer than people expecting.
I think it's definitely true. I mean, there's a little bit of a rigidness when it comes to Flag Gaming. They like to play what they like to play. Jason, this star player, can play a lot of different DPS roles and pops off on basically all of them. Quite an aggressive player overall. But this is the question: is that Restart are going to will force Flag to adapt. But I think we do have a map already ready, which is going to be Ilios here. We are going back over the Greek Isles. We have had a bit of Lijiang, but now we get to see more of the sunny islands itself. We will throw this one over to the casters, who will be I Hold Shift and Ryan Central.
Thank you so much, Blank and the boys. Not a lot of time to break this one down, but I'm really interested, Ryan, to take a look at some of these newer players just to get a feel for them. I think everyone's got their eyes on Delete Brig for, one reason or another, I would imagine.
How has he got away with that? Surely Blizzard likes 3 names. Like, we need to sort of really, the elephant in the room. How has this been allowed? I hope, just for the sake of irony, that he just plays just Brigitte, but I don't see he's actually going to be playing Tracer, which makes it even funnier. That's what he's locked in, at least. So it is going to be Flag Gaming versus Restart. I think we casted Restart last week and it didn't really go in their favor. B612 isn't on that team anymore, which is a big blow, and things are kind of dicey when a big blow is B612 leaving the team. That there's kind of that argument of he hasn't won a match in a year, but I think he's won some sort of smaller tournaments in China before the Overwatch League started. But it's been a while since he's won one. But he's not in his team. Flag Gaming going up against him with this typical comp that we've seen a lot of. Gets the first pick onto Restart.
Restart just completely opted to separate themselves. Lucio by WinWinQ went he went. He had a committal call in his mind and he just went for it. Nobody else from Restart was there. It was easy pickings for Flag Gaming. They'll take this first point as soon as it opens and start to capture themselves up a nice healthy percentage pool.
Yeah, they're going to make a really solid start. They don't really have major ultimates. It's sort of all hand across all the different targets. But straight away, Restart going in aggressively, getting picked. The support's going down first in both fights. So this might be a current trend that we're seeing. Not really much to go over so far. Flag Gaming sort of starting off on the right foot. It's interesting to see that both are effectively running the same compositions now.
Yeah, and you take a look at what Flag is doing well. I mean, they had a good line of sight on the Zenyatta and said, let's just go dive right on into him. They get over in there. Coldest follows up in the Discord orb, but it's a pretty easy pick onto Aztec, and with that Zenyatta being down, then you got people in your backline. It's really hard to deal with. And Flag Gaming just really good target prioritization so far. Monkey will jump in once, will get himself a shield, but again, look at this, immediately right back into the support line, and Over is trying to keep the Zarya away. Again, they're able to pick these players apart one by one.
yeah, taking apart this 50% on the point. Ultimate slowly working their way up. I think it shows how procedural this is from Flood Gaming, that they're able to just sort of pick them apart in a very quick, concise manner. These fights aren't too long. It is also a testament to Restart to be able to restart fights as quickly as possible. They're not getting staggered as such, but every time they go in as a team, the spots to be taken down. I mean, even like Win Q was half health just from pushing through that choke. So a lot to say about Flood Gaming's target prioritization. They seem to be winning out these engagements. Graviton coming in.
Graviton Surge to start things off. We'll find 2 kills. Transcendence will be popped rather late in that engagement from Aztec, so that won't be enough to keep everybody alive, unfortunately. And as you look to reset for Restart, they will have a handful of ultimates coming online. Unfortunately, they don't have many ultimates in form of sustain. They will have the rallies soon. They will have the sound barrier soon, but they don't have time is the biggest problem, Ryan.
Well, 95%, and I don't even think that Lucio's, like, Mike hasn't built up ultimate yet, or Mika. Like, that's just how straightforward it's been. They haven't really been taking any damage at this point. They've slowly built up their ultimate. I'm only pretty sure that Coldest got his from doing damage.
Now over, we'll use the Primal Rage to keep everyone separated on the side of Restart. And Delete Brig, who was playing the Tracer, will fall on the Zarya and will likely watch the rest of his team respawn through his monochromatic screen. And with that, just back the point to clean up the last player, which is going to be once taken down and separated away from the point. It'll be a rather clinical 100% to 0.
Easy as you like coming out of Flag Gaming, they've already sort of taken the steering wheel. A lot of ultimates not going to be built up at all from Restart. I think 93% on Delete Brig having the Graviton Surge. So I think it was expected. I think most people would sort of assume that this would be the result, right? But I think maybe people need to be taking Flag Gaming a little bit more seriously. They are in the sort of wishy-washy group. I'd say like Group A is just stacked full of contenders but Group B, you've got LGD Gaming in there that haven't had the best start, but still a team that you want to watch out for. We of course saw the games earlier on, and then Flag Gaming, who is like stacked to the rim with players. I think it's the full roster, right? Like 12 players they've got it capped at. So granted, there are a couple of players that we haven't really sort of seen for a while that might be going other places, for example, but Flag Gaming and Restart, this is looking like a team that might be able to cause some upsets in the playoffs. This is a team that's probably on its way down to Contenders trials at this given rate.
Well, we'll see how this fight goes off right here on what looks to be almost something similar to what an American Gladiators would set up on this little platform, and it will be a trade, at least mech for player. That will, of course, favor Flag still with numbers as they're trying to find a way to get these frontliners a little bit more health, and not able to do so as the Zarya is able to run right on in. At 97%, you can see Charge and Delete Brig finding a lot of damage and helping the team of Restart get themselves a little bit of capture percentage here in Ruins.
Well, I mean, we might have spoken too soon. We saw this earlier with Ether and their game earlier on today, that the switch on this sort of central point in the Brigade, the Zarya, sorry, it's because of the name Delete Brig, I'm getting confused, but the Zarya being the turning point. Delete Brig, 72% on having an ultimate, shows how much damage was done. But Flag Gaming have also built up a good amount of ultimates themselves, 84% on a trans. That might be the way to sort of turn this fight if they're looking to use that grab fairly soon.
I'm board with Jason trying to move on to the Transcendence. Will be popped for Restart, though, to keep everyone alive, as well as the rally. And looking to move on in. What next is the biggest question for me to win this fight out. The sustain ultimates are pretty much all gone at this point, waiting for a sound barrier. Delete Brig is probably our biggest option as far as damage output goes. And you can see Glowing at fully charged, as the opposite, Evil X, is also there looking for a Graviton Surge of their own. The sound barrier is popped immediately as the Graviton Surge comes through, and Restart is able to find themselves a lot of success. Even though they lose 2 off the self-destruct, they'll retain possession of this point and likely get a couple of staggered cleanups.
I mean, Flag Gaming did throw a good amount of ultimates at that, and Delete Brig is going to be the one that sort of makes sure that MG goes for a little bit of a swim, a wander, and then back to spawn. Like, Flag Gaming used some big ultimates there. They used Graviton, they used Self-Destruct. They got a couple of picks with the combination, but Restart had already sort of played them out, so now they're in very much control of this. Flag Gaming, as I said, are a team with a lot of stacked players, a lot of players that haven't gone anywhere since Season 2 that did pretty decent, like adequately better than average in Season 2. Jason get a pick onto ATZ, oh, what a name. It's like my Wi-Fi password, that one. But in any case, Flag Gaming is going to be able to clear up the point in fairly quick concession. Again, getting the pick onto the Zenyatta for Restart early on. Like, the spots are getting picked fairly consistently.
I enjoy that play from Flag, mostly because they are able to push Jason right on in that left-hand side perspectively. They pop the sound barrier as soon as everyone starts getting low. Restart doesn't have a response to it, at least not as of that time. And now as they're starting to build up some capture percentage of their own, Restart do have a lot of tools kind of stacking up in their tool shed here, and it really just comes down to, can they find the target that they want? The Graviton Surge could possibly be popped, and you got to be more careful of Over in the back line, and they're doing a pretty good job of peeling back from the Brigida, also getting very low on the side of Flag. Even some restart, they need to find the kill. Graviton Surge will lock Jason in place, and that'll be enough for one. Make that 2 kills, make that a third. They're going to clean this almost all the way up. Haven't lost a member yet, and Restart looking smooth here on Ruins.
Managing to take a lot from Flag Gaming. Granted, they didn't really use too much. They still kept some of their ultimates, but 93%, they may be able to sort of take this. It's going to be difficult for Flag Gaming to touch. They have a grab, they have, you know, fight-winning ultimates, but they got to get onto the point to contest beforehand, and that itself might be awkward. Restart, their attention goes into the backline, ignoring this Zarya that's coming in with the grab.
Really smart play from Over. He dives in. He will sacrifice his life, but he pulls everyone off a point, setting up a beautiful Graviton Surge, and the damage is there to follow up, but unfortunately, Flag have lost 2 of their frontliners. It's just down to D.Va to hold the fort, but it's not going to make a difference because Jason is up here with Oldest, able to get a number of kills thanks to that Discord Orb and target prioritization changing, and that's going to be enough for Flag to find the retake, and goodness, Ryan, they may have just turned this one around. They are close to a Transcendence and a Rally and a Sound Barrier, our Flag.
It doesn't matter if they're on 99%, they still need to be able to take this map at least. They don't want to go 1-0 down straight away. We're starting to see new meanings of life. I think this is the best that we've seen Restart play in a given situation like this, but they need to start on the front foot, I believe. Jason getting a pick onto AZT, I'm just going to call him, isn't a good start, and a Graviton used for Flag Gaming to just clear stuff up. I believe to just sort of make sure that it keeps going their way. 70% on the point. Restart, they're building up ultimates, but Flag Gaming already have a good amount. The margin of being able to at least take this map is starting to drop.
They do not have the rally, but of course you can see all of those health bars are supplemented with that gold armor plating. Thank you very much to Jason and the Brigida, and Restart. They're going to do the same, and they will have the Primal Rage and a Graviton Surge to come up, but it really comes down to, can Flag find the early pick first and foremost? The Leap Rig getting pushed around from behind, but not able to quite turn, as now the Monkey is going to push the Leap Rig way out of this fight. Look at this target prioritization. Flag Gaming know what the problem is. It is this Zarya. Graviton Surge will lock a handful of players from Flag in place, but there's just not enough damage. Follow up the Transcendence coming in a little bit late from Restart, but the damage may have already been done. Self-destruct would be nicely timed. One says nowhere to go as he was locked into place from a Graviton Surge coming out of the nice big old plasma cannon of Evil X, and it looks like at 99 to 99, it will be Flag Gaming recuperating themselves and getting them the 100-point swing.
Fairly quick map. It was good to see Restart being able to put up a bit more of a fight on Ruins. They started to have a bit of semblance. Granted, one of their star players, at least in that round, was the Leap Rig. You can't really ignore the name, can you, really? But they really sort of struggled. I think Flag Gaming were able to, like you say, focus the Zarya in that case and shut them down. See Delete Brig deleted by Brig was pretty funny in itself. But so far, straightforward result. We've seen Restart, I believe, last week, put up a good amount of fight on, I believe it was Busan last week.
Yeah.
And then from then out, all of that energy was put into that control map, and from then on out, they kind of petered out as the series went on. So it might be par for the course for them in this given rate, but we can't write them off because they do look like a team with a little bit more life in them. But is it enough to take away from Flag Gaming?
And I think at the same point, you started to see, as the Ruins was specifically progressing, there was a very vast focus on why Restart was winning. It was the Leap Rig on the Zarya. Getting that high charge very early in the first fight was really the cause for success for Restart, and it took a while for Flag to tune into what was the problem, but they did figure it out, and keeping Delete Brig out of the picture was one of the biggest reasons why they were able to come back. Well, Restart not going to go away just yet. They have 3 more maps to play, and, well, they're going to really want to take at least one away from Flag, at least give themselves some hope. We're going to send things over to a quick break, and we'll be back with map number 2 between Restart and Flag Gaming just after this.
but life is hard. And sometimes you gotta wonder if it's worth it. I don't know, but I can give you a hope that won't fade away, so you can keep your heart safe. You don't have to be downhearted. Let's return to where we started. You don't have to be downhearted, 'cause that will be the world fighting for you. I'm fighting for you. Fighting for you. I'm fighting for you. When the world takes hold, it never lets you go. Through the snow, we got a long way left to go. But you don't have to be downhearted. Let's return to where we started. You don't have to be downhearted, 'cause that will be the world fighting for you. I'm fighting for you. When Allah is awake, I will fix your mistakes. Down high.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm my hold shift. He's Ryan Central, and we are heading to Numbani. Mr. Ryan says we also have a sub for Flag Gaming. Evilux is going to be taking a back seat on this one, and it will be Sly coming in. So again, like you mentioned, Flag is flexing their 12-man roster a little bit here.
Kind of like Eagle Gaming when they were in Contenders for EU, they had the 12-man roster, could change out all sorts of stuff. They could almost like put in a B team here and sort of get them to stretch their wings out a little bit against restart if they wanted to. But I guess map differential is important in their group.
Yeah.
Like I think you have Group A where you have the big teams, and then the stuff like Zoo that are just going to struggle going up against stuff. Even like TSL, as we saw just before this map, right? With Group B, it's amalgamation of different talents, teams that were once real contenders for contenders, but now because of like LGD losing a lot of players, they lose their backbone a little bit, need to try and work out who they are again. But we will be seeing Restart attacking first. Jason is scouting all of this already on the Sombra. Lai is going to be playing Hanzo for us. Meanwhile, Restart running a fairly straightforward sort of divey comp with no support ultimate because they're running Animus.
Yeah, very interesting indeed when it comes to the long game as far as sustaining big fights, looking to just delete people early and often are restarted. How about that? Able to find the Winston. And how about that? It will be, as Cloud will start to show off a little bit, will be hacked just as he uses the Swift Strike. So a little bit of an awkward spot, but the Leaf Brig there to help support a little bit with the DPS. And now on point come Restart, and they still have the numbers, but would love to find one more, although P.E.K.K.A will be taken out of mech, so trading away mechs actually this time as MG also does get D-Mech. Cloud wanting to find the baby Diva will help out as it will be ones taking down the numbers and giving it an advantage to Restart's direction. And again, Over gets picked, and it's looking a little bit disjointed so far for for Flag.
But the thing is, the Flag Gaming are able to pull out the actual rally. EMP's going to cut it up with a Dragon Blade. This is still taking a good amount of time. Like, Restart started this fight with picks, but that fight went on for about 30 to 45 seconds, right? So Flag Gaming will try to stall it for as much as possible, but we did see Restart using some big ultimates and completely clearing it and having stuff. Like, this is very much even now, you could say that this is very much a different team to what we've seen in the past. And Flag Gaming might have been surprised by that, so they're bringing out a bit more of a tanky composition. So maybe they just underestimated what Restart could do here.
Yeah, very well could have, and they will switch a couple of the supports around. Restart as well, making a couple of changes, and Flag just putting the gas down and looking to move on in. They will find Coldest first and foremost, and without that Zenyatta being there, a little bit more freedom to move away without being blown up as much. And again, good target prioritization here for Restart as they're able to just go from backline to frontline very easily. With that Zenyatta being down, they feel free to just continue to find this aggression. Ones will come up and land right on top of the forehead of Mika. And there it is, a full team wipe for Restart, looking solid so far.
And they're building up ultimates at a really good rate as well. Cloud has moved over to Brigitte from the Genji, no surprise really, and has the rally 78% of its way. EP is almost ready to go again for Delete Break, who so far has been one of the pinnacle turning points for this team. Like, really has breathed in a good amount of life, but you got to say that even like the new support line of having AZT2C, I'm just going to say AZT. You know who I mean.
I've been calling him Aztec, personally.
Aztec. Probably it. I'm like an old man trying to read, like, number text. But we are going to probably see ones pulling out the Primal Rage and the Diva Bomb getting picked. So this payload is still moving for Restart.
Restart is looking really solid. Again, finding the backline first and then moving back to the front line time and time again. Flag Gaming trying to pull a right side flank prospectively for them, but was sniffed out by ones. He's able to just play patiently, let his backline allow them to kind of bait Flag Gaming in further, which allows that Primal Rage to go off. And again, Ryan, we're seeing Restart. They're going to find this second point easily. They got 4 minutes and 50 seconds for this third point.
Trucking along very nicely, but Flag Gaming do have a Graviton, and it's kind of like we saw earlier on with the game with the Bastion on the payload, having a fight sort of end here. Flag Gaming get control of the point. As soon as it goes around this corner, they can sit on it and defend it, and Restart would struggle to try and get it back. So aggressive push coming out, Lai getting the Graviton. I think it gets eaten. It must have done.
It looked like it got eaten. It's definitely not on the floor, Ryan, but it doesn't make too much of a difference, it seems, as there will be a couple of frontline traits happening, and it will be going the way of Jason and the rest of the team, including our substitute Lai jumping in to find a couple of extra picks. And yeah, it definitely must have been soaked up because it wasn't sitting tacit on the ground. And with that, a little bit of a distraction, I guess we'll call it. Flag are able to find a couple of picks and Restart. They will kind of come back into this one with a lot of ultimates to use, but they will have to go up against the Transcendence and a Sound Barrier.
And Lai could breathe a sigh of relief considering that Graviton got 8. That could have been another big thing for Restart going in their direction, but the follow-up was there needed. And Lai's 54% on having another one anyway, so managed to do quite a lot out of that fight. Now we're starting to see Flag Gaming using this dive to almost envelop Restart as they're coming in, but the kills are going Restart's way. Transcendence keeping everybody alive.
The Restart able to use the Earth Shatter just to put a little bit of delay in that backline from getting the sustain they needed, allowing these picks from ones that he's slapping through target after target. And again, Restart are really showing up here on Numbani. They have had a number of full team wipes.
They're absolutely clearing this and in good time too. Everybody's on fire. They have a sound barrier. That's all they have ultimate-wise, whereas Flag Gaming have a couple more ultimates. Another grab for one, so there is a way for Restart to get around this. This is a team that has honestly surprised me. I take back everything bad that I've said because this is a whole different thing. Sound barrier does get used earlier, and the Gravity follows with lots of ults from Flag.
Well, the self-destruct isn't able to find as much as I believe Flag wanted. The sound barrier, though, will keep them in the fight and moving on forward, but immediately everyone pulled back in by Restart and Delete Brig, who continues to be a game changer, and the self-destruct from P.E.K.K.A will find 3. No shields available from Flag to keep everyone away from that self-destruct sequence, and once again, very clean and concise Restart on the back end of Delete Brig have really brought new life, and I don't know if they're gonna have a chance to touch. Lai will give it a go, but gets absolutely pushed away, and Restart get all 3 points with a huge time bank behind them.
I don't think we've seen any team really finish Numbani as quick as that. Like, Delete Brig has come in like some form of superhero. Like, we have no backstory on this play. We don't know who it is. It could be like B612 for all we know. Just be like a vigilante going over to the Delete Brig role to try and make a statement. As Joker says, it's all about making a scene, I suppose. I can't remember the quote off the top of my head. What was it that he says?
I can't help you. I'm sorry. I wish I could.
This is absolutely like pandemonium that Restart must have performed this well. Like, they could still get 4-0'd here, but it's still a huge sort of step up of Restart being able to perform and go toe-to-toe with Flag Gaming, who are a team that have a lot of solid players and do look like top playoff contenders, or one of which in Group B, but do have a couple of like curveballs that they have to suffer from. Like, they aren't the perfect team, right? That they can slip up on good occasions, and this could be a big upset if Restart can keep this pace going.
And you kind of have to feel like the apprehensiveness from Flag Gaming here, like getting completely shook as they bring in Lai potentially just to give some more experience, thinking that this is going to be a rollover. As again, the first point of Ilios was decidedly 100-0 for Flag. If you're just joining us, the second game did start off Restart's favor, but Flag made proper adjustments, and you think that their confidence wasn't, too rattled by it. But so far, Delete Brig has been the game changer, and Restart looking that they might take a map.
It's hilarious. Can you imagine? Like, I'm not saying that this would happen, but if Restart managed to win this this game, that I was going to say Freefield, but B612 not winning a game in a long time decides to like leave this team or whatever, and then they win a map.
They win a game, it would feel so bad.
But Flag Gaming are going to be on. They don't want to make any mistakes now. They know that Restart do have a couple of bits of life in them, so they're going to be aggressive over, actually going on a bit of a flank, maybe force people down to the low ground. In addition, straight away Restart get the picks.
And that was just an interesting spot because you could see Flag was trying to respond by tactically retreating, but they weren't really in a position to really get their support line out. And again, as you imagine, as Doomfist does Doomfist things, he's able to punish those stray bodies that were left behind, and Restart have a nice and convincing self-starting defense. It was this little synchronized dive off the edge of the map was part of that, but still, good play from Restart.
They almost sort of baiting out Flag Gaming. He saw over jump into the low ground. That's because I think he was expecting people there. Now they know that Flag Gaming are going to be on the low ground yet again, getting this position, maybe going on this flank. Some easy charge coming in from Wands. It's going to do a lot of damage as a Winston. Yep, you see this whole traverse to get on around here. It's a big question if Restart are going to be able to rotate and position themselves, or whether Flag Gaming have been average to win the territory war.
The Monkey will be standing on point to make sure the point does stay in contest, so nothing is gained for free, but he is by himself, and Ones will be the first blood in this engagement, looking to get themselves moving back through his flag with a little bit of success here. P.E.K.K.A will be demeched and immediately taken down shortly after, and with that will surely come at least the one tick. There are still a couple of bodies to Restart here, but they don't have a front line here to really contest with a big body, and they will just kind of touch and back up. It's a good delay, only getting one tick is Flag with the recontest coming in from one to Delete Brig, able to find the substitute that came in again. Live does drop away, and how about a DMEC to go with it? MG wondering what he can do, and it looks like not much, as Restart will only allow one tick to go through.
Really, it's so well played from Restart to be able to survive it. EMP, they have big ultimates left to use, even a mana boost to sort of spare. So they managed to sort of whittle away Flag Gaming, who right now are running this competition, are kind of just known to be able to run this quite often, but really missing that like coordination to sort of make it work. So Restart just kind of having a bit, not so much a free game, but they're able to play in a style that suits them.
A great EMP, but doesn't find the Transcendence, holding Zenyatta of Coldest. The Meteor Strike will come down well-timed. The takedown one, and now Cloud is finding himself a little bit of a pop-off. The uppercut into Seismic Slam, and then the D-Mech MG will not live to tell this tale. And again, we're in a situation here where we are just a minute left, as we do have a couple of technical difficulties. We will bring this back in just a second. Stick with us while we go through a quick technical pause. We'll be back in just a bit. We're back in with Flag Gaming, and we apologize for missing some of the action there on our technical difficulties, but I will just give you the rundown. MG found himself a huge self-destruct, which would give them a lot of control of the point, but still contesting as we get back into the thick of it is Restart. The Hammond switch for ones is good enough to touch. A couple numbers are trying to get there, but it's not going to be enough. So Flag Gaming, they will, in overtime, get themselves the first checkpoint of A.
This was very much a war of attrition that you just missed. I was ready to sort of describe exactly what was going on, but for the most part, not much. It was just nice and clean. It came in from Flag Gaming eventually because they had to, because it was in overtime. The Graviton combination with the Diva Bomb was enough to completely clear off who was left for Restart, but they have a significant time bank still left. 2 minutes on the clock for Flag Gaming to push to the second checkpoint. Restart set up with a good amount of ultimates, only really dedicated Sound Barrier, Self-Destruct, and Primal Rage as you're seeing in the top right, but they still have ultimates to spare. But like Flag Gaming, they're kind of low on a few things, but have a Transcendence on the way.
Over popped his Primal Rage so early, though, and Jason does fall, trying to help out the Winston, who was trying to get aggressive, and now Restart are absolutely punishing. Time for Cloud to go off, as there's really no one in front of him to put up a shield or anything, and that will be enough to follow up the team for Restart. Really questionable decision for me there, Ryan, on Over. He pops the Primal Rage very early in that fight and tries to get aggressive, but there's no follow-up really from the rest of Flag.
And that's the kind of thing that you want to avoid when ult charge is such a prevalent thing. You pop that ultimate, you're giving 1,000 HP worth of ult charge to the enemy team if you're not careful. But the diver's going in from a Cloud, and the rest of them try to get a pick. Does not, but the Transcendence does keep people alive. But Restart is still contesting this fight and engagement. But Ace Aztec Wi-Fi name, still goes down to the pick. So now we're going to see Flag Gaming moving forward.
And with that, there are a number of picks. The Transcendence popped by Coldest was enough to surround all of Flag Gaming in that aura and allow them to continue to move right on into the backline of Restart for essentially free. And that's really the biggest thing, as you take a look at the composition that Restart did have, as Cloud will switch to Brigitte. When you're running a Sombra Doomfist, you essentially just say, all right, we'll just play a 6-on-4 and we'll just dive right on through that front line and try to force everyone back to the back line. This was the self-destruct play that we saw earlier from MG on this point contest. It was a great Graviton surge. So, hey, look at that. A little bit of a bonus feed, even though we did have some tech difficulties. You guys get to see exactly how that point was won. Now back to the actual action in front of us as Restart contest this one right near the second checkpoint. EMP does come out for Restart, and that's going to be enough for them to hold it. This is the last team fight. You're absolutely right, Ryan. Sound Barrier being used as well. It will be used for both squads, but again, Flag do not have the numbers. They need to stay on point. It's just the Diva, and getting absolutely brutalized is that mech. Mika needs to find a way to tusk, but it's just the Lucio left. Now, finally, it's going to be the side of Over coming in with the Primal Rage. Needs to stay on point, though. The rest of the team is so far away. Trying to make a couple of swaps potentially. Actually, it doesn't look like they will. Just need to find a way to get onto point as much as possible. Delete Brig back with another EMP, but the picks are already there. This EMP will come out just as a ceremonious victory run. And wow, look at that Restart. Tying this one up 1-1, Ryan. We've got ourselves a set.
We have got ourselves a very exciting game. None of us, I think, expected that kind of result. Not so much like the 1-0 at this point, but the way that Restart are playing. They won that comprehensively. Like, they finished the map, full held them, well, not full held, but they pushed pathway into overtime for the first point, and then all the way to the end of the second checkpoint. So I need to hear what the analysts have to think about this, because nobody could have expected that these roster changes, this change in attitude, honestly, from Restart, would make this much of a significant difference. So, yeah, these next two maps are going to be spicy if Restart can keep up this momentum. Flag Gaming look a bit lost now. This is a big challenge for them.
A little bit on the back foot, but we'll take a couple of steps away. We'll let Blank and the boys share their, I'm sure, stagnant surprise. Blank, what do you guys got?
I mean, well, we kind of called it, right? We were like, yeah, it's probably a closer game than you might think. I mean, to be fair, it was kind of like there was a really nice stew going. You come off of Ilios, it's a really nice stew. You got it there, and then you get lye, which is just salt, and you just keep putting the salt in the stew, and it just no longer tastes nice at all.
The cap fell off, and
it's just all in. Yeah. Like, and we would talk about it. We thought like Evil X kind of looked a little bit shaky on the Zarya, but then we go to Lie on Numbani. I mean, Volamel, what happened?
It was something. There was a grab that was missing. There was some personal charge that was missing. Coldest may or may not be a little bit angry that he was not bubbled a few times. It was rough. We saw this last, I think, week 1 when they played against Lucky Future. In their last map, they actually subbed in their kind of substitute tank line, and Lai was participating, and the game just kind of changes for them. The team itself just kind of starts to change. And while last week we did say that, Flag is being a little bit rigid, they're not kind of adapting to these tanks. Maybe we're forcing it a little bit too much here. I hope to see, coming out of halftime, I hope we see some substitutions come in, because this was rough, to say the least.
Specifically, which substitutions, Scribe? That's the question.
I think one, I think obviously, right? Like the alarm goes off, but I think Lie is kind of like in this.
There's an alarm going off for this team as well, man.
I mean, that was the wake up alarm. That was Evil X. Got his like one map of sleep, and now it's back to finish it out. But I think this kind of goes back in terms of like pressing mentality, right? Like last game, we talked more about how Zoo, if they continue to press their advantage, eventually they're going to hit kind of one of those pressure points, right? This is kind of a good example of that. It's where if you continue to pressure Flag Gaming, especially when Lie's in the lineup, it becomes very obvious to see the fractions that are being developing, right? Because MG over is a super strong combination, but as we have kind of seen, over kind of has a lot of his stuff covered up by MG's diva play. So when we see over like engage independently, whether or not he's expecting Lai to give him bubbles more effectively, or even just to push after Jason gets a pick, we're seeing that they're no longer able to consistently generate that advantage moving forward. And that in and of itself is something that's very honestly impactful for Flag, who strives off of getting over going, because we saw in map 1 when over is able to generate kills, he's able to use his leap to close distances, right, to kind of reframe the fight more effectively. But when he's going in first, when he's dying first, all of a sudden there's a large dependent on Lai being the person who has to generate the charge, right? Because MG, a lot of these cases we see he's playing more defensively. He's the one who's trying to get these comeback ultimates, right, to try to reverse this, right, on retake ultimates. So when he's kind of stuck in that role, it puts so much emphasis on having this very high MG Zarya, and that just has not been there for them.
Yeah. And as we look at it, though, so we've touted over, we've touted MG, and I think there are a couple of players on Restart who are starting to come more into the fold here. But I think 2 players we really do have to talk about, and it's back over to Flag Gaming, is Mika and Coldest, right, Volamel? These 2 players have been together for a very, very long time, since the start of the year, and they have not stopped performing. And it just allows Over to go into the backline a lot of times, because he's very wary that he knows Coldest and Mika are just going to be very happy in their own right.
They play very well off each other. I mean, Coldest, probably one of the best Zens still left in the region after the kind of great Chinese exodus into the Overwatch League, and some mystery teams that may or may not be coming soon, perhaps. But the support duo is so integral to this team, and I do like them a lot. But to touch on Scribe's point before about how there is this kind of overcompensation when Flag Gaming does run tanks, we saw Jason on Ilios kind of playing a similar style to Kib on the Brigida, kind of hiding every so often. Every other fight, it felt like he was tucked in a corner and just assassinating the enemy backline, which kind of made up for Evil X's maybe uncomfortability onto the Zarya. So it's they have their own style still of this 3-3 composition, but it's not necessarily finding success, and we do have some substitutions.
We get Evil X back in for Lie. Yeah, so we get a swap-a-rooney, and I think something we're saying here is that Lie and Evil X both semi-inconsistent Zaryas, but the real cool thing that Flag likes to do is that they massively compensate for that with Over and Jason, like both very, very aggressive players, and it's really, really cool to see the dynamic there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of one of the things that Lai should be working on a little more. And I think we've noticed this mechanically, right? Like if you were noticing on his cooldowns, he immediately uses bubbles one after each other to try to like absorb as much damage as possible instead of saving it. And it's kind of like, this is where the saving the cooldown really matters in this specific type of 3-3, because when your Winston goes in or your Brigitte goes in, these are bubbles that you absolutely need to have when you want to re-engage, because you can't risk getting blown up immediately, especially with not a lot of shielding available. So this, hopefully Evil X is kind of a little more patient with his bubbles, a little more understanding of the situation he really needs to go in, because Jason has to be that first activator. When Jason gets that first pick, that's when things are going to be rolling. But at the same time, because of how aggressive they played, there is a huge potential for a swing back. And I think Restart is starting to pick up on that. And they're a team that is willing to play the Sombra heroes, are willing to play Doomfist, are willing to kind of put you in a situation where these mistakes all of a sudden get more exacerbated. And from a confidence perspective alone, I mean, Flag they're coming off a week where they just beat LGD. Right now they're 1-1 going into the second half. That's not something you really want to see. So I think if Evil X can keep it going, bring them back to the winning ways, I think this is a very easy 3-1. But otherwise, I'm not really sure at this point.
I do want to kind of jump in and talk about the dynamic of Flag Gaming LGD last week and Restart Flag Gaming this week. Last week, Flag Gaming was the team to run the DPS-centric compositions into the stubborn tanks of LGD. Now, Flag's on the other foot. Flag's running the tanks in a very similar sense to the way that LGD ran, and Restart is running these DPS compositions. Flag need to go back to what worked. They need to go back to the DPS.
Yeah, I think that's completely right. And now we do have our next map, which is Horizon Lunar Colony. And I think this is a map which might even be able to promote that kind of play style. And if they play it correctly, it could even bring the Sombra back to the mix, which we do know that Evil X is great on. So this is a massive potential for this team to really bring it back in this series, at least. So we'll be heading this one over to Horizon Lunar Colony now. I'll pass this one back over to the casters. I hold Shift and Ryan Central. Take it away, lads.
Thank you so much, Blink, follow, and subscribe. Appreciate it as always. And well, Horizon is a map that you and I are rather familiar with when it comes down to what we've seen so far in the first couple of weeks. It will be the side of Flag on defense first and foremost. Of course, we can see some cheeky setups with the Rissas, Junkrats, and the sort. It looks like first and foremost we will see at least two of those characters, but also a potential Bastion come into play.
We have seen far too much Bastion today. I feel like not so much sick, but just delusioned at what is happening, really. But Flag Gaming, I think the analyst desk hit it perfectly. They're a team that were really good against LGD in terms of being able to play stuff and to be the ones asking very difficult questions to tank compositions, right? Now they're the ones that they dictated to that, are dedicated to that competition with a Winston GOAT, so Restart were able to be quite flexible. And I feel that Restart going into this with like nothing to lose. That's kind of the attitude that they have. They're like getting straight in onto Aztec. This is only one support that they're running, and they're running triple DPS, 2 tanks. This is a very interesting comp for that Restart. You wouldn't expect anything less.
You would not expect anything less indeed. It is very questionable, though. I mean, you're looking at very, very low health pools on the side of Restart, and of course, you're looking to flat out dive on in and look to burst away a couple of these heroes, but it comes down to the accessibility for me, Ryan. Can you really get these 3 kind of flank-based heroes really going?
I know it is that you've got Vilix that's going to be sat there. You got a Bastion to deal with. The Elite Break has to try and work this out like she's a Solid Snake in a Metal Gear game, right? It's just so difficult to go through with Cloud. Torn asunder by Jason and the rest following. So Restart really can't make this competition work here. Jason and the rest of the Flag Gaming showed good initiative to make a somewhat strange abstract competition work very well in their favor.
Time for change, you would think, right, Ryan? I mean, after those first 2 pushes immediately being thwarted by blowups, you would guess not. This feels like it's time to change, though, if you're looking at Restart. I just don't know what their goal would be. You got the Bastion, the Junkrat that can easily destroy these squishies. It seems strange to me that they're staying on this.
One's in the backline. I think the main sort of thing is to make sure that they can't fight in a choke, that they're not going to get stuck there. They can each make their way across now. You sort of see Flag Gaming looking over their shoulder because they know that there's a Wrecking Ball around. There's perches of Divas coming. I know they're pretty terrified, but Diva on the high ground. And you sort of see the Mercy following through and Win Cubie taken out. Bastion using the ultimate. It's just like a deathmatch kind of fight going on here for Restart.
It's just, you know, you look at like... this is a really high execution threshold comp for me when you look at Restart. I mean, you're anticipating that Ones is going to be able to drop in on at least 5, get a huge adaptive shield where you can stay alive, not have to worry about having the Mercy, and the Mercy can damage boost and immediately switch over to try to heal up the Diva. It just seems like there's so many things that have to go right for Restart with that comp. It makes sense that they're finally switching over.
Not too much, though. They still have an EMP, which makes sense. The Elite Breakers being able to find good sense with them. The Riptide comes out from Vilix, does go down in a chunk, but does get the pick onto Aztec. So Restart down again. 90 seconds left on the clock. MG just scouted out for a Sombra. Is kind of terrified, a little bit paranoid perhaps at the rate that this is firing, but Flag Gaming are just keeping all of their bases covered. They know that they can't let any ground in front of them, behind them, to the side, above them. They can't let that go because the Elite Break and the rest of Restart will pounce on that opportunity if they let them. They're playing very conservatively here.
This needs to be one of the biggest EMPs we've seen in Chinese Contenders, I think, if Restart wants to have a shot at this. There's no way they're getting either the Transcendence or the Sound Barrier up. If we'll hit a handful, jumping on in will be the front line, but Ones is already extremely low, but the kills are actually funneling through, and Cloud is still near full HP. Seismic Slam right into the Junkrat, immediately into a Rocket Punch, but the damage is not quite there to convert on the kills, and still not having touched point. We're at about 45 seconds. The Transcendence is getting closer, but it has to come down to Cloud finding a couple of kills. They will get one out of Mech, and with that will come kills onto MG and as well the Junkrat. Jason's still here on the Tracer, but I don't know if this Tracer by himself is going to be able to do enough. It's stalled just before the second point has been converted, but the Transcendence now finally comes out for Aztec, and that's going to be enough to push Restart through for checkpoint A.
Win Q getting more kills on Lucio than he did on Tracer, that's for sure. Manages to get the triple kill in quick succession. Restart going to be able to take this first point. 15 seconds left on the clock, but they might be able to take some forward momentum into this. Flag Gaming have changed up their composition quite significantly, so that means that they don't really have ultimates. Restart have a couple, not a lot, but when you're running Doomfist Sombra, you don't really need it. And you see Cloud just trying to find a target to pounce on. Delete Brig, delete and Brig.
Cloud able to juggle Brig in the air for so long, not really allowing her to be effective whatsoever, and Cloud still going deep, will be finally taken down by the micro missiles, and with those other kills coming into the Monkey as well as the Lucio, that'll be enough to force Restart back. They looked for a little bit of a snowball push, they got some success, but not quite beating the threshold of that defense that Flag put up.
Yeah, now it's a case of Sombra versus Sombra, one of which has the EMP. Evilix is sort of building up fairly consistently, but they have the information knowing what Restart are running, if they've changed anything, what direction they're going. Having that information prior is going to be huge for them on this defense. Delete Break got into the backline. He has a target in his sights. You know exactly who he wants to sort of fight here. He's going to go straight for the break.
Yeah, and they will get a lot of damage done in the break, but it's actually Flag finding kills on the opposite side of the fight, and those eliminations are spelling out disaster for Restart. It looked good at first. I mean, you saw the setup, but there was no follow-up from the front line of Restart. One's tried to get there, but Pekka was not there. Neither was Cloud, and it looks like Restart will rethink their comp.
They need to sort of maybe change up their composition just a little bit to make it work. They're going to go towards a tanky composition. Switch sides now, really. Restart will run in the DPS heavy comps, then Flag Gaming was running tanks, so that's vice versa. So you got to say the Flag Gaming are now in control of this map. They're sort of forcing Restart onto more meta compositions instead of what they want to play. Evilix has an EMP ready to go. Delete Break 5% on the grab, so that's going to be a while. 2.5 minutes on the clock, so Restart are just going to slowly progress onwards as Over goes onto the backline.
We'll go in the Primal Rage, but immediately triggered was Aztec's Transcendence to make sure that he didn't fall too low. The EMP comes out for Flag right at the right moment, but the Sound Barrier did stay safe, and the Lucio win-win Q will keep Restart in this game, even though the EMP was in a pretty decent spot. Looking for a way to convert some kills is Flag, but there's just trades on point. Fortunately, though, for the side of Restart, they found two big supports having taken down the Ana and the Brigida. MG will also fall over, and it looks like Restart will have the numbers to continue to keep this alive for them. Looking for a way to put this first point, but again, these respawn proximities from Flag Gaming are in a good spot here, Ryan.
It's different. Like, Jason is so low, has a little bit of ammo to keep him alive, but it was a really good rally that came out of Cloud to keep Restart in this fight. They're still managing to persevere, and eventually Aztec does get picked up to Jason. Big EMP coming through for Evil X though, but does go down, so both teams traded pretty significantly, but we do see Restart getting a tick. They might be giving up on this. Actually, no, not just yet.
This
They're
is
gonna still
sustainable.
contest. Yeah, they
With
can.
the Lucio being here, this is absolutely sustainable for at least these three. They're going to contest this for a little bit while longer, but they aren't able to find the Lucio. He's so low. It would be big if they could take him down, but they allowed Jason to go off, and that will spell the end of that sustain. My goodness, Mika was so close to falling, but Restart could not quite track down the Lucio, and Flag Gaming will hold this defense. They will give up that first tick, and it will move up to 47% total from Restart.
Flag Gaming running what Restart were running on the Numbani, and Restart vice versa. Both teams switching compositions, showing how flexible you have to be in this meta. It's not quite working out for Restart. It seems to be whoever plays the meta comp is the one that's on the back foot, because they have to go something that's a little bit more straightforward. Evlex gets caught out. That's huge.
Wow, huge spy check taking Evil X out as he was trying to get as much information to his team as possible. Now numbers for Restart, looking to possibly find the second tick. They've met about the maximum prestige that they've had so far. Jason wants to keep this backline in contest, but it looks like the front line is where things are really being pushed away from, as Restart will have the numbers and the front line, and then moving on to the back line. Coldest will drop over. They're able to put the boost out, but it's not able to keep them in the fight for as long as they would have liked. And with all that coming out from Restart's front line, it will be the point going their way for Checkpoint B.
Managing to finish out Horizon, which they didn't manage to do last time, I believe. One of the teams managed to finish it out, but it was because of a mistake from, I believe it was that was the T1W TSL game. T1W fell off the high ground, if you recall, and they managed to go from there. But Restart taking this all on their own, managed to actually sort of play really well here. Really solid plays from Aztec, finding the pick, really opened it up from Evil X going down as Sombra, right? So the ability for Restart to stay in that fight, to get the picks that were necessary. They even whiffed the Graviton, I believe, like Cloud either placed it in a really awkward position, or it was eaten by MG's Diva. There was no Grav to follow up, but they still managed to go through, and you could sort of see towards the end of that map how quickly Restart were jumping on certain targets, like Mika was able to try and touch the point as a Lucio. You saw Restart instantly to face him and mow him down completely. So we're seeing a lot more coordination and communication coming out of Restart, that they're able to get that prick priority and really put Flag Gaming on the back foot. There's a lot of like really awkward scenarios that Flag Gaming will have to deal with now if they want to see this one out.
Indeed they will, and look at this setup for Restart. I'm mostly taking a look at this Widow from Delete Brig. I gotta see some shots coming through. Is this guy really the legend that Restart needs? Maybe not have shown to deserve as of yet, but, well, hey, maybe they will start to bid themselves a more better record in the group stages if they can find some success in the back end of this newer player.
We saw a lot of mistakes coming out of Restart at the start of this game, just on Ilios, but it's actually quite impressive how quickly they've been able to identify some of the mistakes, such as the backline being taken out, and making sure that they don't happen half as much as they used to. They still happen, of course. You can't really have a immortal backline support, but they're managing to sort of withhold themselves a little bit more. Delete Brig looking, scoping out stuff, but the Hammond, the Wrecking Ball, is going to be on the point, forcing the attention of Restart away a little bit. But right now, we're seeing Flag Gaming just relaxing.
A lot of patience from Flag Gaming, and then finally committing to the high ground, able to take down Cloud first and foremost. And no, Delete Brig will not open up with the big pick we were all probably hoping for. Evil X will make sure that doesn't happen, with the Genji pushing right into her face. And now, look at all this free backline for Evil X. The Swift Strikes are good to find a lot of confirmed damage, and now the Shuriken's also helping out with those health pulls. A very quick wipe for Flag, and they will likely get all 3 points quickly.
With any luck, at least, they want to sort of be pushing on through. It's fairly clean. They waited, they were patient with their dive, they wanted to sort of go on through and work out exactly how this is going. But 7 minutes on the clock for Flag Gaming, who are going to change up their roster pretty much straight away. They have a minefield ready to go with MG's Hammond, Wrecking Ball. Restart needs to quickly sort of regroup, try and make sure that this doesn't go over fairly quickly in the favor of FG.
Ooh, but Restart able to scout out the Sombra, forcing away Evil X, using all of the abilities. Minefield does get dropped on point, enough to take down one. That's a nice pick to start things off, and the Cloud just dives right in and not able to find, I think, the sustain that he wanted. His Coldest will punish, and this is going to be likely a full take once again. All 6 players still left alive. It will be a desperate switch for ones, but goodness gracious, we were impressed by Restart. How about that response from Flag?
They knew exactly how to respond. They had sort of warmed up a little bit, had a bit of a halftime team talk that they were able to take that attack, but very quick take. It will be, them defended 7 minutes and 11 seconds on the clock, whereas there's only a minute left for Restart. So this is a very much an uphill task now for Restart. They have to pull out some significant plays. Their first point defense was pretty lackluster. It was just a one dive that seemed to clear up house completely. Second point, it was just on the back foot. Like, as soon as you lose the first point that quickly on a assault map, it tends to follow suit, that sort of style. But yeah, very much a looking really good from Flag Gaming. They look like they're going to be able to take this map with the amount of time that they have. It's going to take something monumental for Restart to change that. To even be a draw, it's going to be so tough for them.
We've seen crazier things before. I'm just going to live as that as like my personal mantra to China Contenders. It seems like one thing might happen, but we've seen crazier things happen before. Restart, though, as you mentioned, they will have a lot of ground to kind of overcome here. And I think, yeah, as you take a look at what they're already kind of setting up in base, you have to imagine it's going to be some sort of a 3-3 comp coming out of base.
You got to imagine they're going to go something that's very burly and tanky, just try and rush onto the point. But, I mean, if Jason or Evil X have anything to say about it, they will dissect and take apart that comp before it even gets to touch the point. So they must be expected to Restart to be running something similar like this. Really does wonder what direction Restart are going to go. They're going to go high ground. You're going to see Flag Gaming rotate somewhat. But whether Restart go to try and fight Flag Gaming toe-to-toe or go for the point kind of remains to be seen. Big question to answer, though. Oh, nope, they're just going to sort of chill.
Yeah, and Evil X is going to scout all this out. All the spam fire from the Bastion will come through. Ones will try to get there with a fire strike, but not quite able to get there. As again, you can see Over is holding her ground so well, and Jason behind that Orisa will be able to take down a handful, and Restart absolutely dismantled. It was worth a go, but Over had the nice trigger with the halt and the fortify, able to keep himself alive, give the room to Jason to pop off, and that's exactly what happened. We're down to just 5 seconds left, and that does not look like anyone's going to touch.
No, nobody's going to be able to touch. Maybe we'll see the Lucio get there, but it doesn't look likely. So Restart played for a draw, but they have to hold for 7 minutes to even achieve that. Flag Gaming played that perfectly. Couldn't have done anything better, really. They took apart that composition using their big brains with big comps, being able to turn this around to look like they're the stronger team yet again. Restart need to sort of regroup and rethink this next map.
And if you're here, I think if you're looking at Restart, you know, you got to think back to what the first attempt was. You know, you wanted to try to get a song out of that trombone that Delete Brig was holding with the Widowmaker and that giant scope. But do you just try it again just to see if you can find any success there? Do you try to actually hold this for 7 minutes? I mean, it almost feels like this could potentially be one of those, all right, it's early on, you know, we're in week 3, we're testing out a new player. Do we try something a little bit wonky just to see if we can, ride some success here on Horizon with something different?
Apparently, just reading up, Delete Brig is actually used to go by the name Raphael. Was playing in Pack Contenders, PSC. I think it is Pacific Contenders. So might be. We don't quite know the alias of this Delete Brig just yet, much like Batman or Superman, really. So leaves a lot to be to work out. But has come in and changed how Restart look considerably. But Flag Gaming are going to want to attack this one. They know exactly how to sort of run and play this. They might even play this competition that they've locked in right now. Because they have all the time in the world to sort of experiment and stuff them twice as long as they usually would. Restart, they have to hunker in for the long run.
Coldest was just going to throw out the Sonic Arrow just to check out for something cheeky. Won't find what he was looking for, which essentially means, all right, well, let's just set this thing up and see if we can find a break onto this Orisa Bastion strategy. And the biggest question is, do they know that that's what they're going up against? Over will dive in and he'll find out firsthand and will immediately be pushed right back off. And Evil X, who wanted to follow up, did not have the frontline support to keep up on top. And it will be Delete Brig on the Bastion popping off again, finding a handful of kills. we'll put this one just in the right-hand gun form, and we'll take down Mika to clean it up. And, well, that's one down. Many more to go at this point.
One down. 30 seconds down, 6.5 minutes to go. Probably the largest time bank I've ever seen, 7 minutes and 11 seconds.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I don't think it's really possible for it to be any longer because the reason is that Restart managed to cap the point with 15 seconds left. Flag Gaming did it in a good amount of time, got an extra 45 seconds, so that's why it's ridiculous. Like, I think it's impossible to literally cap the point with that amount of time left. But it looks like we're going to see Illusion maybe capping the point in the last second. Delete Blake, Delete Break, bringing out the Bastion ultimate. Absolutely trying to wreck the Hammond, but gets to pick up the Evilex. Very scrappy, like 99% of getting this point, though.
Yeah, really good delay, though, from Flag to stay away from that tank mode, and then recommitted with the minefield and everything else that they had in them. And Flag Gaming, as you, I'm sure most anticipated, will eventually get that 33% that they needed. Flag Gaming will take their map, and, well, now we're sitting at 2-1, and as you take a look at just that map as a whole, pros and cons for both sides. I mean, is this looking like what we anticipated, what we were talking about before? This is Flag Gaming set to win, or does Restart still have a chance to come back through and send this to 5?
I feel like Restart are overthinking this a little bit. That strategy that they came up with on their first attack with the 3 DPS, 1 healer, Wrecking Ball, Diva was a little bit excessive in terms of how meta-defining it was. But like you just saw Flag Gaming just playing it straight and narrow, ran a couple of interesting stuff such as Bastion to be able to counter anything coming in. Seemed to work really well in their favor. But now it's the map choice of Restart on what pure escort map that we're going to be playing. We might try and do like Numbani and play something like Dorado to try and get off those tanky compositions. So it's not over for them completely. They do have map choice. They do have a way to set themselves quite nicely into this next game. If they can maintain the momentum that they had in Numbani, they might be able to turn this around and put this into at least a 2-2 scoreline. But Flag Gaming looking a lot better on this map than they did in the last.
Anything can happen, Ryan. That's all I'm going to live by. We've seen wilder things happen. We're going to send this over to a quick little respite away from this game. We'll be back in just a moment with the conclusion, potentially, at least map 4 of this set between Flag Gaming and Restart. Be right back after this.
Cruising my way down the street. I ain't got no weight on my feet. It feels like I'm floating. Feels like I'm floating. Ain't nobody like you. Yeah, you got me. Tripping all over my shoes. Yeah, I'm falling for you. Ain't nobody like you. Yeah, you got me. Tripping all over my shoes, yeah, I'm falling for you. Ain't nobody like you. Ain't nobody like you. You might be out of my league, but I caught you staring at me. It feels like I'm floating. Feels like I'm floating. I got you, you put me. I got you, baby, with me. I got you, you put me. I got you, baby, with me. I got you, you put me. I got you, baby, with me. I got you, you put me. Ain't nobody like you, yeah, you got me. Tripping all over my shoes, yeah, I'm falling for you. Ain't nobody like you, yeah, you got me. Tripping all over my shoes, yeah, I'm falling for you. Ain't nobody like you. Ain't nobody like you. Times are rough, this time I see it too. All this bullshit drama, I can see right through. Everybody wants something they can't have, so they gon' put it on you. Wherever you go, yeah, you can take me there. Over the ocean, I can see us there. Let's run away and be forever young. We'll catch the sun where there's no need to run. Wherever you go, yeah, you can take me there. 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 I see you, and you see me too. We may be broke, but we see the truth. All this bullshit drama.
Welcome back, everybody. We are in map number 4. It'll be over on Route 66. On my whole shift, he's Ryan Central, and we've got Flag Gaming going up against Restart, and it's been so far a pretty good one, Ryan. And as we were talking about the 2 different maps that we could possibly see, you brought up an interesting point of why we're likely going to be seeing Route 66 here.
I just sort of brought it up because of the Sombra. Like, Sombra was good before she got changed to be less of a support hero, but we did see it earlier on with Lucky Future awkwardly leaving a point behind, but they still wanted to run stuff like Sombra, some really big plays, but it does look like we're just sort of getting a brief glimpse, if you're looking in game, to the compositions. Flag Gaming already bringing out the Sombra Brigitte combo, whereas Restart look to be actually running this sort of Winston Goats compositions. Bearing in mind that this was their map choice, so they chose to do this.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. And again, we've seen Evilix. We'll be rocking this Sombra defensively for Flag. Has had some big plays, but at other times has been scouted out and been picked up early. Fortunately, the rest of the squad of Flag Gaming have done a pretty decent job of fighting 5v6 when that does happen. But again, in an escort map, you do not get the same kind of luxuries and freedoms that you would when it comes to trying to just control assault points and all of the such. And scouting things out will be Pika first and foremost. And yeah, you saw it coming into spawn, and Restart hasn't changed anything, Ryan. It's looking like this full 3-3 goats with Monkey.
Flag Gaming decided not to engage at all, so all of this first section, no engagement from Flag Gaming, meaning that it all goes away without any contestation. Pika actually goes down to half health, takes a good brunt of damage, and Aztec actually does go down from MG. So Flag Gaming taking the time getting the picks, demeching Pika as well whilst they do that. So straight away, Flag Gaming have come in and completely torn apart Restart's attack.
Really good start as far as the hold came out initially from Flag. Restart had a pretty good push just to get ones on that left side high ground and forced Flag down to the low ground, but unfortunately they did not compensate for the flat amount of damage that came out with those Discord orbs, so they will back up and try again. Evil X walking in tandem their whole way, just scouting this one out.
They're just going to keep an eye on 59% having an EMP, so not quite ready, but they are going to dive into the Zenyatta, who gets kind of awkwardly put in a position, manages to survive for a good amount of time with the Zari shield, but isn't enough. Like, you can sort of see Aztec's positioning a little bit off, kind of scared of being dove on in the backline, so kind of walks into the front line a little bit, but Over is able to sort of complete the full team reset. Flag Gaming looking like the team that initially ran earlier on Ilios.
Not the worst case scenario though, Ryan, as Coldest did pop the Transcendence defensively there. Now Restart will have a chance to recommit with some sustain and initiating ultimates of their own. Flag, of course, having a handful already ready to go and rearing and looking for potentially an EMP as well. And Aztec will be hacked first and foremost, but a nice trigger. Oh, the translocate came out just in time, but now over is where the baton will be passed to be the distracted, but we'll take a nap just off to the backside of that billboard, diving right back in. It will be the rest of Restart. Graviton Surge to hold the support line in place, plus the Sombrook, and they need to finish this Lucio, though. He almost escaped, but ones will track him down, so the kills will favor the side of Restart. They still got a couple of big bodies left, as we will have a Lucio in favor of Restart. Otherwise, it would be a mirror matchup. This 2v3 will favor Restart, and they will take this payload for a little bit of a ride.
There was a really well-timed Graviton that came out of Delete Break, actually, just to make sure that the EMP was somewhat nullified by Evilex, who's staying on the hero of this composition from Flag Gaming. Sort of working to an extent, but Restart now have elements of high ground to take and use for themselves. So we're going to see the Winston, the Diva perched up there. Everybody else on the payload. We do see Cloud getting hacked as Evilex is in the backline. Now Flag Gaming are going to jump onto the point. Just over a minute left on the clock.
And they'll tap the sound barrier as well when they commit for this push, but Restart doing a really nice job of baiting themselves backwards. The self-destruct will make things a little bit more difficult, as Delete Brig will be eliminated from the field, and without that Zarya being there, I don't believe they have enough damage to really push through all of this tankiness. But Ones is actually proving me wrong immediately, as he's able to take down 2, will be boosted as well. So how about this? Continuing to fight is Restart, and finding a D-Mech onto MG. One's looking for his next target. Will track down a Lucio and the Pilot Diva, which is the first priority. Will not allow her to re-back up, and now all of a sudden Restart with Zarya not being there, but a Doomfist being swapped to. There will be enough damage to push on through this, and that will be the first checkpoint going the way of Restart.
But that fight itself went on for about 45 seconds, so Restart just didn't want to give up that fight at all. Literally 3 minutes on the clock were given to them in total now, so Restart do have a good amount of time to push this payload ahead. As I said, you've got all of these little areas of high ground that you can see the Winston sit atop, but mostly it's going to be Evilex using these to get the flank contra and hack target to get them focused up. Flag Gaming are doing okay here on this defense. They are giving up elements of ground, but the dive's coming in and the ultimate's used good enough, but Restart just over-dedicating, having to win the ultimate economy on a good portion of the time. But these fights are taking a good while.
Absolutely it is, and Coldest will pop the Transcendence to make sure it lasts a little bit longer, at least in favor of Flag Gaming. And looking for a way to come back in as the rally here, and the sound barrier was used for Restart, but there have been no eliminations as of yet. Over will be stunned around, and now Ones, who's in the Primal Rage, has a chance to dive into the backline and will actually be able to slap their way through the Pilot Diva as the self-destruct came out, but was not able to find much. Coldest with the Discord Orb able to find his way through. Now a sound barrier coming out for Flag Gaming. The defense still setting themselves up. Delete Brig will throw out a Graviton Surge, but there's just not enough damage to follow up with it, and Restart will be held at the front gates.
And they used so many big ultimates there. Graviton, they used the Nano Boost, they used the Diva Bomb, Sunbury, pretty much everything that they had other than Rally, which Claude didn't have quite ready. So Coldest is building up a Transcendence, as you can see on the bottom, and Jason has a Rally. So both teams dedicating their few ultimates in that fight, but Flag Gaming came out on top. You got to say that their ability to sort of shut down some of the stuff the Restart wants to do is pretty good, but I think Restart over-dedicated in the fight that they should have known was lost. Now they got to keep moving this payload ahead. 1 minute 20 on the timer, just to make sure that they can keep pushing on through. They want to at least get just before the checkpoint, ideally, and not stuck where they are now.
Evilux having a little bit of a difficult time getting the hack off. Will finally connect third time's the charm, and that will be enough for Flag Gaming to continue to put the pressure on in, and it's just going to be a full team wipe right in front of these big steel gates once again. Flag Gaming setting things up. Transcendence was popped. Rally obviously as well from the side of Flag, but those armors are mostly retained from the side of Flag Gaming.
Right, and they have EMP2, and Evilex is just going to watch exactly where Restart are going to prime themselves and position themselves. They must know, like, Rally does get used because I think Restart are expecting an EMP soon. Being able to top everybody up is a big thing. But again, drop into the low ground sort of beforehand. And over going down might be the difference here, considering the EMP came in and there's been 0 follow-up so far. Saying that, Jason and Coldest managed to get the picks that they need.
A little bit of a rinse, rather repeat here from Flag Gaming, fighting in the exact same situation. Instead of using a hack, they use an EMP this time, though, and it's not nearly as favorable as a trade as before, so they will have to back up just a little bit, let this payload move, but squishy bodies on the point, and I think with Evilex scouting this one out, we're down to overtime as it will fade away in the next 5 seconds. Flag will have a lot of ultimates to spend to potentially put this one at its full halt here.
There is going to be a big ultimate that has to come out of Aztec. You actually saw there, I think, Pika going off the payload, but didn't want to sort of give it up. Maybe didn't want to sort of C9 too badly, but Delete Brig needs to build up a Graviton. Transcendence does get used early, and the EMP isn't ready
No
yet.
one's on the point. No one's on the point. Oh, they're able to retouch. Finally able to retouch. It was close. D.Va will contest from flag. The sound barrier also being used for our team in green, and Coldest will be able to find a trade onto the other Zenyatta. There will still be support on support action happening here. A little bit of little self-sustained survivalist action happening, and it will be Delete Brig also taken down. So flag, they'll put their attention back onto the point where it's just a very weak monkey and a D-Mech D.Va to take care of. They'll do that very successfully to clean it up, and it'll move about 75% of the way through this second point, but rather still convincingly flag able to win that last fight.
In the middle of the ballpark, I'd say, for restart, literally like in the middle of the map that payload was stopped. So not bad, not great. It could have been better. It could have been worse for a restart on this attack. They have the opportunity to defend. Flag Gaming kind of know exactly what they need to hit to make sure that they come out 3-1 up. It's still a lot to ask. We aren't done and out of the woods just yet. Well, I mean, it's Route 66, so it's going to be quite a while before you find any form of like forest or woods, to be fair. So restart, I think, just look a lot weaker when they're not running the comps that they want to. When they're trying to run tanks and stuff, they look a lot weaker when they go up against Flag Gaming toe-to-toe. When they pulled out the Sombra, the Doomfist, that really did make Flag Gaming's life a lot harder. So I'd be interested to see if on this defense they plan to do something at least a little bit similar.
Well, a lot of things to consider, I think, if you're looking at restart defensively. Is, well, if you take a look, they're still actually considering what they want to bring out of base for a couple of their roster members. So it looks like they'll finally switch into what will likely be a 3-3, because they do need to hold this rather convincingly at the start, although Delete Brig's still considering what they want to bring to the table. And it's been a really impressive showing for Delete Brig. It's just one of those things that I think you're really starting to see the full value. I know a lot of people get rather bored of watching 3-3, but a lot of the catalyst of success or failure does come on the back end of your Zarya player, and Delete Brig has really showcased that nicely today, Ryan.
I know, exactly. Like, there's been some good synergy, more so that we've seen out of restart, that it's been a really rough showing in recent weeks. And granted, it does look like they're probably going to be losing this one overall. Even if we do see restart winning this map, they have to play control, which they looked pretty
wishy-washy.
Difficult. Yeah, exactly. So like, it's looking dicey for restart to be able to win this one, but they look a lot better than they have in recent weeks. Flag Gaming, their inconsistencies are showing, and on this defense are going to play very aggressively, but Pigs are going the way of restart, funnily enough.
A brilliant committal, actually, from Restart. That was a cheeky little play from Over to come over and from the backside to try to get a little bit of a flank, but Restart just pushed right on forward and said, hey, there's no big frontliner here. The monkey's not there. Let's just dive into the back line. And they find themselves a couple of kills and a nice little tactical retreat back to more favorable ground to fight on. But Over is not going to give him a chance to set up much longer than just taking a couple of steps backwards. And now Flag all of a sudden on the aggression. They'll take down a couple. It's just a 6-on-3. The D-Mech will come out, making this now just a couple of supports left alive, trying to snipe his Coldest, but not able to connect any bodies, and it will be the payload moving for Flag.
Trucking it along nicely. Restart need to regroup and refocus if they want to be able to keep themselves in this map. So Flag Gaming have ultimates to spare. EMP is going to be a fairly important one that's up and coming. Restart don't have a Transcendence, they don't have the sound barrier, so they're kind of wanting to maybe just hope that they get the picks that they need. But from the ultimate perspective, they have rallied, they've just used it. That's all they've got.
EMP will set up potentially a self-destruct kill. It was a little bit delayed on the timing. The execution not quite perfect, but they will find a D-Mech and the follow-up kill into Pika. The Transcendence just a bit too late, but they will still contest this. Will Restart looking for a way to get some kills, but again, it just does not seem to be going their way. Sound Barrier will keep this fight alive, giving Delete Brig a chance to potentially set up a Graviton Surge, but Flag Gaming will not entertain that idea as they'll take down the Delete Brig. I'm sorry, I almost said took down the Brigida. She's making this confusing with the team name and the roster name, but it will be Flag Gaming finding this first checkpoint.
Well, you know that Delete Brig isn't going to be playing Brig at this point. I think they've made that fairly clear, but the Graviton is ready on this defense. They must, Coldest just used Transcendence, so they must suspect that Micah does have a sound barrier potentially ready, so they might want to use this fairly aggressively. They might want to sort of push on fast, and that's exactly what they're doing. They go straight through Micah, so this is a really good opportunity to grab so long as it doesn't get eaten by another D.Va.
and looking for a way to get these last couple of cleanup kills, but not really doing so all that successfully. Over will put himself in the primal rage. That'll be enough to find a little bit of extra damage. One's in a little bit of trouble. He is committing to this primal rage as much as possible, but does have to take his last couple of hops out of the battle and will be able to survive at least, but that ultimate being off the table is pretty big. They'd still have that Graviton, though, does restart, and they're going to have to find a way to use this pretty quickly because the payload is reaching its final destination very quickly.
I know you're excited, but your microphone peaked very much in that sort of last second, so I think we all got our ears blown, but there is a soundbar. He's still ready for Micah if he wants to use it. Might just push him on ahead if they want to, but the lead break goes low. Has a Graviton, is struggling to use it, actually gets taken out. Over gets the pick. This might be it for Flag Gaming and Restart.
Oh, but the self-destruct comes through and able to find at least one trade. The Transcendence keeping a lot of this fight in contest for Flag. They just need to find a couple of more picks, and it looked the Diva coming out of mech. That'll likely be it. And sorry for my microphone popping on you guys a second ago. Just wanted to make sure you guys were all still awake out there. It's the biggest thing. It will just be WinQ last with live. A right kick, a little bit of a frontal kick to the face will be enough for Coldest to clean that one up. And Flag Gaming, they'll take this one at a 3-1. And it was rather convincing near the end, but again, moments of brilliance in here for Restart. Consider me impressed.
I think they did themselves proud. It's a scoreline that I think most people would expect. Maybe be even surprised that Flag Gaming even took a map from Restart took a map from Flag Gaming, but ultimately that Numbani game was really good. Yeah. If they could do more of that, then they have a chance to keep themselves afloat. I think playoffs is you either get playoffs or you get relegated to Contenders trials, right? So they're probably leaning towards being able to try and stay up, but like they still have a loss in week 3. They have like 2 games left to play. It's a really difficult scenario, but there might be teams that they may be able to nick a win from, even though the B612 isn't in this team anymore. Restart go another week without a win.
But you still look at what's in front of Restart. I mean, again, they've got a couple of games, that could potentially go their way. They've got Alter Ego next week, and then they have Lucky Future to kind of end things off in week 5. And this is very potentially an opportunity for Restart to win a couple of games in here. Not just maps. We're talking full-on matches and sets. It's very possible.
Definitely. I'd say based on the way that they played today, they looked a lot stronger than Alter Ego. And Lucky Future, as we saw way earlier, like a couple of games ago, prone to make mistakes. So that'll be an interesting game in itself. Might not look like much, but I think that we're starting to see glimmers of potential coming out of Restart here, but it might be a bit too little too late.
Very well could be, but that'll do it for myself. I hold shift as well as Ryan Central. We're to send things back over to wrap things up in a pretty little bow with Blake and the boys over on the desk.
I've got the bow. I'm gonna tie this one as best I can, but the game was messy, so the bow might come undone at some point. I mean, the way it works is like Flag Gaming. You get a pretty awful time bank. You've drained down to 13 seconds on Horizon Lunar Colony, right? Then you come out with the 7 bomb, and I think at that point, that's when it goes. Friendship ended with Brigitte, new friendship with Brain, and Flag Gaming just managed to turn it on, right? And Coldest starts showing up, Over starts doing stuff as well as, but I think MG is one of the players that we just have to keep talking about here, Scrub.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's brought them back from so many bad situations, a lot of bombs, but in terms of his play and where he covers with his Diva defense matrix is kind of insane. He's like one of the, by far on the team at least, he's kind of the glue that holds everything together. And this is a Flag team that I'm pretty happy they obviously got the win because it did look dicey at points, but yeah. I'm not exactly very happy because this is a quintessential example of good playing everyone. Like Coldest being in the front line, just dueling, winning things off of raw aim. Like, yeah, like that's great that you can do that, but it comes down to he needing to make sure that all that positioning, everything like that is tightened up for later in the playoffs when it starts mattering a lot more. Because Flag Gaming, I mean, they got pushed to the limit by Restart, and Restart, even though, yeah, like we are saying, like big roster changes, like maybe Aztec is the big factor that really needs to come in, but they didn't look as decisive as I would have liked them to look. And I think overall, like they really depended on like Coldest's fragging ability, Jason's fragging ability, and MG holding everything together.
It did kind of pose a potential storyline that I'm looking to follow, for Flag going into the playoffs and obviously finishing out the week because, obviously we're not, locked in just yet. But we are seeing this change of play style. Was this specifically for restart? Is Jason, capable of playing this front line? Are they capable of playing this kind of very aggressive support style against tougher teams? That's what I'm kind of looking for, because if they can, this makes up for the kind of lack of DPS that Evox is supporting, and maybe even Lie, coming in at a later date. If they're able to have those support threats really, really carry them, that would be pretty interesting, because I think a lot of teams are going to be prepping for Jason's Pharah and maybe even the Genji, depending on what comes in the next few weeks. So it is a nice sign, but like Scribe said, things need to be refined a lot more.
I think Jason's Brigitte is one thing that was like a massive highlight, and you referenced it to working like Kib's Brigitte before. It's quite aggressive. He hides away, and I think throughout Chinese contenders, what we've seen so far is a lot of Brigs that do what Brigs do, right? They stun the Reinhardt, they get the healing done. They are that officiary of between your tanks and your backline, right? But then you go to Overwatch League, it's much of the same. But then you've got players like Mickey, who kind of redefine Brigitte. And I feel like here it's the same thing. Jason is this new type of Brigitte. It's Brigitte 2.0. And it just creates so much space. You see him just literally running forehead first into the enemy team.
Exactly. And that frees up Coldest to do a ton of work. And we saw that throughout Root. We saw that in Horizon. Like you see him constantly through the kill feed. He charges alt like Jonak like speed. Like it's so fast at what rate he charges us. And that comes from the space that's created from Over, from Jason, from MG. They're creating him so much space. And Evox, he gets in and adds to that chip damage, but it feels like the Coldest show. Like he's just turreting people down. And it's impressive, to say the least.
I think one player on Restart that we had a few questions about was Wands. A few times where he jumps in, but like you see Over, and I think Over, his name, it really does him credit, because he just overextended at times. So he does things a little bit more than he maybe should do, like almost showing off to an extent, which sometimes makes him just completely feed over all his ult charge. Whereas Wands, it feels very mediocre at the moment, Scribe.
Yeah, I think that it's just a matter of the teams that they're playing in. I think that if we put Over on Restart and we swap them out for Ones, I wonder if we're going to actually see around the same stuff, because I think there is something we do need to know, is that there is a weird compositional change recently, especially with Jason having, I think last season and the very start of this season being the more that Zarya player, and now with Evil X kind of being like, I don't know if Evil X has a Brigitte that's as strong, so I think it's been like a weird role rotation, and because of that, we're having like a different style of Zarya player, which makes Over like seem super aggressive. And I think Wands at the same time, I mean, we have to chalk up to communication, right? This is a team that is part Korean, part Chinese, like one of the teams that does suffer from these possible communication issues. And as a Winston player, you want to be playing super aggressive to enable the rest of your team, and it becomes very hard when you have to switch off that mentality, because all of a sudden some Winstons go from very aggressive to almost too passive, not creating space at all. So at the same time, it's tough to say like what one should be doing. Maybe you put him on a better team, he's able to play more aggressive and is rewarded for the play. And we might be saying like, I think most of like Reddit or a lot of the community would probably be slapping on the same accolades they do for Over, right? Over is getting all these stuff, playing super aggressive, but I think a lot of people forget that Over looked very exposed in these last few maps, dying first very consistently, and oftentimes had to rely on his team to bail him out.
Absolutely. I think he has moments where he probably needs to rein it in a little bit. Sure, Jason can enable this, as well as MG, who, like you said, just actively participates in making sure that Over is always enabled to do his job, to always be in that backline, make sure he's getting as much damage as possible through. It just felt like a lot of times the positioning is a little bit odd here and there. And we look over to the Zarya on Restart, delete Brig. It just seems to be out of place a lot of times, and the bubbles just aren't as effective as they need to be. Now, bubbles are a big thing that we do talk about a lot, Volamel, but there were some specific things that they were doing which was just not enabling their team to their best.
Well, in the same sense that we can talk about Lie and Over having that dichotomy where, Over is playing a little bit out of his resource pool, where Lie isn't necessarily hitting him with the resources as he is. It's kind of like a rhythm game where, there's a small window where you need to be able to hit that bubble. And if he's not, well, then there's a bit of an issue, because your Winston's in the back line and he kind of is there knowing that or at least anticipating there's going to be some sort of resources to, buy him some time so he can get out. And that's the kind of same thing that happened with Delete Brig and Wands on restart, where, there were times where Brig was kind of off doing his thing and Wands was diving in onto the Zen and the Brig. And you need that bubble to survive that initial burst damage to try and, create some space. But there wasn't, there was no bubbles to be had there.
No, they just did not come through quite quick enough, did they? But that is pretty much going to be it from us today on the desk. I hope you've enjoyed all the games. Big thank you to our casters, Ryan Central, IL Shift, Kenobi, Rapture, and our lovely producer behind the scenes you don't get to see, Qbot. He's done a great job today, keeping us all on track, making sure we know what we're doing. But there will be more Chinese contenders for you tomorrow, so remember to tune in for that one as well. As same time, it'll be 8 GMT kickoff, actually 9 GMT kickoff. But we will see you then, and don't go anywhere. Bye bye.